Hey there, and welcome back to History for Sleep. I'm so glad you're here. Today I would like to walk you through the night before India's independence. But before that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below from which part of the world you are listening this. Let's begin. Before the fireworks, before the flag rose for the first time, there was silence. This is not a story of noise, of speeches, or of struggle. You already know those. This is the story of stillness, of the final night when India slept under colonial rule, the quiet between two worlds. On August 14th, 1947, across villages, cities, hills, and rivers, people folded laundry, poured tea, whispered lullabies, lit lanterns, and listened to the wind without yet knowing how history would sound. Let us walk gently through that night, slowly, softly, as if time itself were dozing beside us. No drama, no rush, just quiet footsteps through the final hours before independence. Asterisk. The night air hangs low over the subcontinent. It is August 14th, 1947. The world moves slowly, as though caught in the still breath between chapters of time. A country is about to wake into something it has never been. But for now, it sleeps, not in peace, not quite, but in anticipation, in quiet waiting. The wind brushes softly against the canvas walls of tents and the tiled roofs of ancestral homes. Somewhere, a cow shifts in its stall. A match is struck for a lantern. Feet move over stone paths in slippers worn thin with repetition. It begins not in grand halls or among loud proclamations, but in a small village where nothing appears to be changing. A boy wakes early, not from excitement, but habit. He's known that something is happening, something his father and uncles speak of in half sentences, something that made the school close early yesterday. But the morning looks the same as any other. The brass water pot is cold to the touch. His mother lights the stove with dried twigs. A slow curl of smoke rises through the hole in the thatched roof. The smell of boiling milk and cardamom rises, like an offering to the sky. Outside, the fields hold dew. Oxen shift as a man taps their flanks gently. Somewhere nearby, a bicycle bell chimes, not once, but 3 times, with a slow rhythm. It's the postman, even though there is no post. He rides out of routine. His khaki cap is slightly crooked. The tires hum quietly over the dusty path. In another home, a grandmother is tying jasmine into her granddaughter's braid. The child complains faintly, not about the flowers, but the tightness of the thread. The old woman hums a lullaby she barely remembers the words to. It's an old song, older than the Raj, older than the fears they don't speak of. In a narrow street of Lahore, 2 men are opening the shutters of a printing press. The ink from the night before is still wet on the plates. One of them, younger, wipes his hands on a stained cloth. Should we print more tricolor pages? He asks. The older man doesn't answer. He listens to the birds instead. There are many birds this morning, more than usual. The younger man doesn't ask again. At a quiet railway station in Bihar, a chaiwala wipes his counter. He is not expecting many customers, but he boils the tea anyway. He lays out 6 clay cups, just in case. Across the platform, an old man reads a folded newspaper over and over, as if waiting for the ink to change its meaning. The headlines speak of midnight, the end of something, the beginning of something else. But here, in this station's stillness, midnight feels far away. In the hills near Shimla, where the mist moves in sheets across the pines, a retired army sepoy stands on his balcony with his hands behind his back. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink tea. He just stands. The flag flying in the cantonment below is still the Union Jack. He watches it ripple faintly in the breeze, like a garment being folded. He turns, slowly, and goes back inside. Down in Delhi, the city is not yet fully awake. The cows are already meandering through Chandni Chowk, unhurried, tails flicking like soft punctuation. Street sweepers move methodically, their straw brooms whispering against the cobblestones. A beggar child sleeps under a broken awning, one hand curled around a tin plate, the other tucked under his cheek. The Parliament building looms in the background, silent, waiting. Its sandstone walls do not betray what is about to unfold inside. At the edge of the city, a peasant woman lights her clay stove with cow dung and coconut husks. She does not speak as she places lentils in a pot. Her husband returns with water balanced on his shoulders. Their children chase a goat through the weeds. This is a normal morning, and yet something is softer in the air. The sky is a gentler shade of blue. Further south, in Bombay, the sea is calm. The waves lap the stone embankments with the gentleness of lullabies. A fisherman repairs a torn net. His son, perhaps 10, sits beside him counting the knots. Neither of them speaks. They've heard that the British are leaving. They've heard it many times before. But the sea says nothing about empires. The sea is only the sea. On the steps of a university in Calcutta, students gather slowly. They don't talk loudly, not today. One reads a poem aloud. It's not about independence. It's about monsoon clouds and the smell of earth. The others listen in silence. One of them cries, but says it's the wind. A professor walks past them with a sheaf of papers under his arm. He nods. They nod back. None of them will remember this moment, but the quiet will remain somewhere in the folds of their memory. In Amritsar, the Jallianwala Bagh lies still. No one walks through it today. But if you listen carefully, you might still hear the breath of those who once did. And beyond it, in the Golden Temple, the reflection of the sky ripples across the water. A man dips his hands in it slowly, reverently. He whispers a prayer, not for freedom, not for peace, not even for the future, but for silence, for stillness, for the strength to endure whatever comes next. In a quiet bungalow on the outskirts of Karachi, a mother bathes her newborn. The child's skin is slick and warm. The basin water glows in the early light. She sings a song about peacocks and mangoes. her voice barely audible. Her husband enters the room and watches, not interrupting. A fly buzzes near the window. He swats it, misses. The baby sneezes once, then sleeps. The parents smile. They do not speak of politics. They speak of diapers and milk, and weather or not to move across the new border dot in a room in Delhi, under a rotating ceiling fan. Jawaharlal Nehru sits with a pen in his hand. There are papers in front of him, not speeches, but letters. He writes one, then another. The ink flows easily. He is tired, but not too tired to write. The clock on the wall ticks steadily. Outside, the city breathes in anticipation. Quietly, a man sweeps the corridor just outside. He does not peek inside the room, but he slows his sweeping, and from far away, in a small home in Sabarmati, the spinning wheel turns slowly. Gandhi sits cross-legged, barefoot, gently pulling thread from cotton. He does not look up when someone enters with a newspaper. He already knows what it says. He already knows what it does not. He stops spinning for a moment and says only one word, Shanti, peace. The light begins to bend across the land, gently shifting the color of everything it touches. It is still. August 14th, 1947. The final day of British India is unfolding slowly, quietly, like the turning of a page where no one wishes to read aloud. But the page must turn. A clerk in Madras sharpens his pencil. The edge of the blade catches the morning sun. He does not look out the window, even though the birds outside are more vocal than usual. He arranges his files in perfect right angles, as he has done every day for the past 17 years. Today is no different. And yet, as he places a red-topped file on top of the stack, his fingers pause for a moment, longer than usual. He closes his eyes briefly and says nothing. Not far away, in a temple courtyard, bells ring gently, not for any grand ritual, but for the usual morning offering. A woman places a small marigold garland at the feet of a stone deity. She whispers a prayer, not of victory, but of protection. The incense smoke rises in soft spirals. The priest watches from a distance, his hands folded behind his back. The coals in the prayer lamp glow softly. A slow chant begins, low and rhythmic, the same as yesterday and the day before. Across the country, school children begin to gather, not for classes, but because they have been told something important will happen. Some wear tricolor pins made from folded paper. Others bring small flags on wooden sticks, the kind that flutter even in the faintest breeze. Teachers wait at the gates with calm faces. One of them hums a folk song from her childhood. Another hands out sweets, laddus wrapped in wax paper. Warm to the touch. In the plains of Punjab, farmers walk the length of their fields with hands behind their backs. They speak of yield and monsoon and the taste of this year's grain. Occasionally, they look toward the road that leads to Lahore. It's quieter than usual. Fewer carts, fewer travelers. The border is still lines on paper, and yet the earth already knows that something is shifting beneath it. In Lucknow, A tailor stitches a kurta for a customer who may never return to collect it. He hums an old film tune as he works. The rhythm of needle through cloth is unbroken. He does not stop to mark the day, only to press his fingers into the fabric as he folds it. He adds a line of fine embroidery, unnecessary but precise. For beauty's sake, he tells himself. Elsewhere in the city, a quiet cemetery receives a visitor. An old man in a white dhoti places a garland on a small grave. He stands silently. The grave bears no name, only the year 1857 etched in fading script. He does not linger. He walks away, cane in hand, the gravel crunching beneath his slow steps. Back in Delhi, inside the Viceregal Lodge, British officers begin to pack. Some sip tea from porcelain cups, held with practiced restraint. Others write final letters home. The mood is subdued. Not triumphant, not bitter, just quiet. The hallways smell faintly of varnish and cotton starch. A maid collects folded bedsheets from a room left half empty. She doesn't speak. She hasn't been asked to dot in Calcutta. The Howrah Bridge stretches its iron frame across the Hooghly like a silent witness. The trams roll past slowly, their wheels clicking like clock hands. A boy watches them from the steps of a ghat, legs dangling. He dips his fingers into the river and stirs the water gently. He imagines this river flowing all the way into tomorrow.in. A modest home near Allahabad, a man sharpens a reed pen. He does not write, not yet. He waits for the precise moment the sun passes over the eastern wall of his courtyard. Only then will he begin. The ink is already prepared. The paper is smoothed. His hands are steady. He is not a poet. But today, he wants to write as though he were one. Further south, in the dry heat of Hyderabad, a nobleman ties his turban with slow, deliberate grace. He has received no official word, no invitation, but he knows the country is changing. His manservant offers him a silver comb. He accepts it silently. Outside his palace, beggars sit beneath a neem tree, too tired to beg, too restless to sleep dot in the forests of central India. A tribal elder sings to himself as he mends a fishing net. His song is in a language older than any border. He sings not of Delhi or of kings, but of rivers and rain. His grandson listens, eyes wide, not understanding all the words, only their weight dot in a radio station in Bombay. An announcer prepares. His voice. He clears his throat once, then again. The microphone crackles softly, waiting. Behind him, an engineer adjusts knobs with delicate fingers. The paper in front of them bears the final schedule, music, and silence, and a speech that will echo into history, but not yet dot in a convent in Goa. Nuns kneel in prayer, their hands folded, their voices low. They do not speak of independence. Their faith, older than the empire, has weathered other dawns. The bell in the chapel rings once, and the sound carries across the palm groves. A coconut falls. A dog barks, then quiets again dot in a house with blue shutters in Pondicherry. A painter mixes colors. He does not paint the tricolor. he paints a river, a winding one, lined with trees. He dips his brush slowly, pausing between strokes. The ceiling fan turns above him, stirring the scent of turpentine and time dot in the hills of Darjeeling. The tea pickers begin their work. Their hands move gently over the leaves, plucking only the most tender ones. A child trails behind her mother, humming a lullaby. The sun is still low. The fog has not lifted. The mountain watches silently dot back in. Delhi, in a narrow alley not far from the Red Fort, a man places a radio on a wooden stool and adjusts the dial. It crackles, then sings, then goes silent again. He pours tea into a tin cup, holds it in both hands, and waits. The hour approaches. It will not be marked by cannon fire or fireworks. There will be no grand parade, not yet. Only quiet words spoken. In Parliament, only quiet hearts listening through the veil of the night. Somewhere, a dog curls beside a sleeping child. A mother brushes the hair from her son's forehead. A father sits on a wooden bench and watches the moon rise. The air stills. In a small home tucked within the labyrinth of old Delhi. A girl places 3 drops of rose water into a brass bowl and lights a single wick. She watches the flame dance. Her grandmother joins her, hands wrinkled like aged parchment. They sit in silence as the room glows. In Parliament, Nehru rises. But his voice does not echo across the nation just yet. Not to all. Some radios are broken. Some ears are asleep. Some hearts are too full to listen. But still, the words are spoken. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A new day is born, but the night, this night, remains soft, silent, sacred. It was not fireworks that marked the moment, not banners or marshes. It was this, the soft breath of a child turning in sleep, the rustle of a cotton sari across a marble floor. The creak of a wooden chair under the weight of a grandfather who has seen too much. And yet never this, the hush of a subcontinent exaling. And the sky, turning slowly toward morning. The midnight hour has passed, and yet, across most of the land, the world remains asleep. India is free, though the sun has not yet risen to see it. In a hut near the edge of a forest in Orissa, an old woman stirs awake from a dream she cannot remember. The rooster has not crowed. The fire in the corner is dimmed. She pulls her shawl tighter, her eyes slowly adjusting to the soft moonlight filtering through the cracks in the wall. There is no celebration here, only silence and the faint scent of rice husk and earth. In a military barrack outside of Rawalpindi, 2 soldiers share a cigarette in silence. One is older, his mustache neat, his uniform pressed. The other, younger, leans against the doorframe. Eyes distant, neither speaks. Both know that soon the regiments will be split. Names will be called. Orders will come. But not yet. Tonight is still suspended in something like calm. The flame of the cigarette tip glows faintly, then dims. Across the fields of Bengal, dew settles on the stalks of jute and paddy. Farmers rest under stars, their backs still sore from the harvest. The constellations look no different tonight. But somewhere, a man stirs and whispers a prayer, not of thanks or victory, but for rain, for food, for peace. His wife lies beside him, already asleep, her hand curled loosely around her belly, where a child quietly waits to be born into this new India dot in a railway car somewhere between Jaipur and Agra. A family lies sprawled on benches. The father snores softly, his arm over a suitcase. The mother's sari covers the face of their toddler, shielding her from the light of a bare, flickering bulb overhead. Outside the train window, the desert blurs into shadow. Occasionally, a distant temple bell echoes through the dust and heat. No announcements. No schedule. Just motion through history. In the crowded lanes of Varanasi, the Ganga flows steady, unchanging. On its banks, lamps float on banana leaves left there earlier in the evening by pilgrims who have long since gone home. The flames bob and drift, gently in the current, sending halos of golden light across the water. A temple priest, having concluded his prayers, leans against a wall, his eyelids heavy. In the distance, a sadhu sleeps on stone steps, his hand still loosely holding a Rudrakshmala dot in the Haveli of an aristocratic Muslim family in Lucknow. A radio plays faintly in the drawing room. The volume is low, the words inaudible. The room is still. A silver hookah stands unattended. An oil lamp flickers gently on the ornate teak table. In the next room, a child sleeps under an embroidered quilt, unaware that soon her family must decide where to live or where to leave. Ceiling fan hums a slow rhythm, like an old lullaby dot in a small church in Shillong. Candles flicker on wooden altars. A few faithful kneel in prayer. The pews are empty, save for a couple holding hands. Their whispers echo softly under the high roof. Outside, the mist hangs low over the hills, muffling the world into quiet stillness. A dog howls in the distance, then stops. The fog listens to itself. In the royal palace in Mysore, the Maharaja sits in a deep chair beside a large window. He is dressed simply tonight, his royal turban set aside. A servant brings him warm milk. He takes it with a nod. The chandelier above does not move. Outside, the palace gardens rustle faintly in the wind. He does not sleep. He simply watches. The dark, as though it might whisper the future if he waits long enough. Elsewhere in South India, near a temple town nestled beside the Kaveri River, a boy sneaks out of bed and tiptoes to the veranda. He looks up at the sky. The stars are sharp and endless. His father once told him the stars are ancestors watching over the living. He squints, trying to find his grandfather's eyes in the constellations. Then, quietly, he returns inside, curling up beside his mother, who hasn't stirred at all. In the mountain silence of Ladakh, the villages sleep soundly. Prayer flags flutter softly against mud brick homes. A lama in a monastery lights butter. Lamp enchants alone, his voice steady but low. No one else is awake. He chants not for independence nor for nationhood, but for balance, for compassion. The Himalayas do not move. The glaciers breathe very slowly. In the embassy district of New Delhi, where once British officials held grand receptions, the buildings now stand hushed. Curtains are drawn. Staff walk quietly down polished corridors. One man, a typist, sits late at his desk, copying the text of a declaration. His hands move slowly, carefully. He does not rush. He knows what he is transcribing is historic, but the weight of it does not fluster him. His typewriter clicks, each stroke calm and measured dot at the red fort. Guards pace the perimeter with soft, echoing footsteps. A lantern swings gently from a post. The stone walls carry centuries of breath. From Mughal courts to British commands, they have watched men come and go. Tonight, they watch again. Not with judgment, only with patience. A few kilometers away, a group of young men gather beneath a banyan tree, one of them holding a handmade flag. They do not speak loudly. They sit cross-legged on the ground, leaning on one another's shoulders. One recites a poem. Another dozes off. The wind catches the edge of the flag and lifts it gently. It flutters once, then settles not far in the forests. Of the northeast, a tribal drummer taps his fingers on taut skin stretched across wood. He does not know what is happening hundreds of miles away in Delhi. He does not know the names of the men in Parliament, but he feels something shift in the tea. Wind. He hums to himself and taps again, soft, syncopated, sleepy beats dot in the Andaman Islands. The waves kiss the shore in long, slow sighs. Palm trees sway gently under the moon. A lighthouse beam sweeps slowly across the water. A prisoner, released, just days before, sits near the jetty. His eyes are closed. He is not thinking of chains or wardens or slogans, only of his mother, whom he has not seen in 20 years, and of rice, and of forgiveness. As the early hours of August 15th stretch across the land, India does not cheer. It does not dance in the streets. Not yet. It breathes. Somewhere, a baby is born. Somewhere, a last breath is taken. A door creaks open. A stove is lit. Wheel turns. The tricolor is folded gently and prepared to rise and slowly. Across this land of rivers and temples, deserts and jungles, mosques and churches in silent stone, the dawn begins to form not with haste, but with grace. And as the sky brightens over a newly independent nation, most of its people still sleep. Perhaps that is the most honest way to begin freedom. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with fire, but with breath. Not with proclamations, but with peace. The night before India's independence fades slowly into light, and the world, at last, begins to turn in the hour just before true dawn. The entire subcontinent seems to hover in a strange kind of slowness, not still, not yet stirring, but suspended. The breeze is gentler now. The birds not yet ready to sing. It is the moment before the moment. The hush before the hush is broken. In a mud house in Assam, nestled between hills and tea estates, a young woman steps outside with bare feet. Dew clings to the grass, wetting her toes. She pulls her shawl close and looks up at the sky. It is still blue-black. But there, in the east, a hint, a single sliver, of deep lavender suggests morning is near. She does not smile or speak. She simply watches, as if trying to memorize the shape of the last night under foreign rule. Inside, her grandmother stirs rice over a small stove. The pot clicks gently as the bubbles rise and fall. A rooster stretches its wings, but does not yet crow. The sounds of the world are distant, padded, dreamlike. And in that space, the woman breathes slowly, each breath held, then released, like a whispered prayer. No one taught her, but she always knew. Elsewhere, in a dusty corner of Rajasthan, in a home carved from sandstone, a camel groans as it is readied for market. The old herder pats its neck gently. He hasn't spoken to anyone. Yet today, he doesn't need to. The camel knows the path, the heat, the routine. But something today is different. The city walls ahead are being draped with new cloth, orange, white, and green. A quiet ride of color against the pale desert. Children chase one another past him, waving little paper flags. He watches them go, the corner of his mouth curling. Upward, not quite a smile, but something close. He whispers, "Azadi," as if trying out the word on his tongue for the first time in his long life. In a cool hallway of a high court in Bombay, a sweeper slowly brushes the marble floor. His broom moves in wide arcs, rhythmic, unhurried. Each stroke echoes faintly between the tall stone columns. He is alone. The judges will arrive much later. He takes his time. This building has heard arguments, proclamations, and verdicts for 100 years. But today, it listens only to the soft bristle of a broom and the quiet shuffle of bare feet in the nearby harbor. Fishermen are casting their nets by lamplight. The sky over the sea is beginning to soften. One man hums an old Konkani song. The net lands in the water with a splash that seems to disappear before it lands. A lantern flickers on the bow. Behind them, the outline of the city is beginning to glow, not with streetlights, but with anticipation. The air smells faintly of salt and promised in a field outside Allahabad. Mist rises in tendrils from the ground, curling and twisting as if reluctant to leave the soil. A young man cycles through it on his way to the river, where he will bathe before prayer. He carries nothing but a towel and a small satchel of sandalwood paste. As he rides, he imagines the voices of his ancestors. Walking beside him, farmers, scribes, maybe a poet once, all watching from somewhere beyond the fog. He pedals slowly, not because of the weight, but because he does not wish to arrive too soon at the banks of the Yamuna. Priests are already lighting wicks in bronze bowls. A conch shell blows. Somewhere, a man bows deeply toward the river, his fingers touching the water before his forehead. He is not thinking of speeches or borders. He is thinking of his mother, now long gone, who once showed him how to cup water in his palm like it was sacred. He cups it again, lets it go. and still the river flows. In a quiet gully of Srinagar, the chill is sharper than elsewhere. Frost clings to rooftops. A tailor lights a small coal stove in his shop, rubbing his hands over it until the numbness fades. His apprentice yawns loudly. The tailor raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. They begin folding shawls into neat piles, their fingers moving over soft, pashmina textures. Outside, the mountains loom, serene and eternal. Inside, a small radio crackles. A Kashmiri voice, low and unsteady, announces the birth of a free nation. The tailor does not stop folding, but the corners of the shawl are aligned with extra care now. In a Catholic school in Goa, a nun opens a window and lets in the pink light of early morning. Her rosary clicks gently between her fingers. Below, the courtyard is empty, save for a stray cat licking its paws. The sea air smells faintly of coconut and wet stone. She looks eastward, toward the land she's never seen but prays for every day. She has heard the children whisper, "India is free," even though this land is still a Portuguese colony. Still, she smiles. Freedom can travel faster than borders. On a dusty rooftop in Delhi, a boy kneels beside a bamboo pole and unrolls a flag he made himself. 3 colors, hand-painted with fabric dye. The wheel in the center is imperfect, wobbly, but unmistakable. His hands tremble slightly as he ties the cloth to the pole. He waits for the wind. A girl in the next house watches him. She says nothing, but she smiles so broadly it can be felt. Across the space between buildings, the flag stirs once, then lifts and finally waves. Down below, his father opens the front door. He stands still in the morning haze, not yet aware of the flag above. He takes in a deep breath and closes his eyes. The dust, the scent of milk boiling somewhere nearby, the faint sound of someone reciting the Gayatri mantra, it all feels different. The same street, but not the same country. He opens his eyes, and for a moment, just one, he lets himself believe everything will be all right. In a village in Kerala, the newspaper is delivered with the morning chai. The man at the door does not even read English, but he knows what it says. He folds it gently, presses it to his forehead, and places it near the altar. His wife watches from behind the curtain, holding a lamp in her hand. She lights the morning diya and murmurs a hymn. The jasmine garland hanging by the threshold quivers in the wind. In a coal town in Jharkhand, a miner finishes a long shift and emerges into the pale light of dawn. His face is streaked with soot, his eyes red with weariness. Another miner hands him a tin mug of tea. Neither speaks. They sit on a crate beside the tracks. A banner hangs nearby, strung between 2 trucks. Bharat Mata Ki Jai. The cloth sags slightly in the middle. The tired man drinks his tea, then lays his helmet on the ground beside him. He looks up, not at the banner, but at the sky. He closes his eyes and breathes. In an ashram in Wardha, the thread continues to spin. The spinning wheel turns in slow, even rotations. The man at its helm sits in white, cross-legged, serene. Mahatma Gandhi does not attend any ceremony. He is not in Delhi. He is not on the stage. He is here, spinning, praying, and fasting. His silence is louder than any speech. A visitor approaches. With trembling hands and folded palms, Gandhiji does not speak. He merely offers a glance and a nod, then returns to his wheel. In his silence is the sound of 1,000,000,000 souls finding their way to a new morning. And then, gently, gently morning breaks. It is August 15th, 1947. The birds begin to sing. A bell rings. The sky opens in quiet color, and a newborn India, cradled in hope, breathes for the first time as a free nation. There is no thunder, no clamor, no chorus, only this: a teacup placed gently on a saucer, a mother braiding her daughter's hair, a farmer washing his feet before stepping into his field, a child raising a flag stitched by his sister's hand, a people waking, not all at once, but slowly, softly, into the gentle sunlight of independence. The morning had just begun, and already the weight of the previous night seemed to fold itself gently into the fabric of the new day. There was no thunder, no eruption of celebration, just the slow continuation of life, like the last echoes of a dream not yet fully remembered, yet softly felt in the bones. In a rural town nestled among the green arms of the Western Ghats, a boy wakes before his parents. He tiptoes past the old wooden door, careful not to disturb the sleeping house, and walks barefoot across the red soil into the open fields. The air is thick with the scent of moisture and wet earth. A bullock cart creaks in the distance. He doesn't know what independence is, not entirely, but he knows today feels larger than the others. Not louder, just wider, a little slower, a little softer. The sky, a vast cloth being unrolled. He bends down to tie a string around a twig and begins flying a small handmade kite. It struggles for a moment, then catches the wind. It wobbles, dips, flutters, and then soars. The boy smiles faintly, his eyes following the rising shape. The field hums with the whisper of the new day. In the heart of Calcutta, the printing press has been working without pause. Fresh ink stains the fingers of a young editor who, for the first time in his career, did not rewrite the front page in fear. Instead of caution or ambiguity, the headline declares, "India is free." The letters are thick, bold, and certain. Yet in the quiet of the newsroom, there is no cheering, only deep breaths, the low rumble of presses rolling again. Someone places a cup of chai beside the editor without a word. He nods, barely lifting his gaze. The pages are bundled, loaded, onto carts, and sent out into the waking world. The wheels turn slowly. The city begins to read itself anew. Elsewhere, in a quiet Brahmin household in Ujjain, the eldest daughter is lighting the oil lamp at the altar. She adjusts her white sari, worn in a traditional drape, and places a jasmine flower between the feet of a small stone Krishna. The wick flares gently. She bows low. Behind her, the family begins to gather, not for prayer, but for breakfast. Still, no one speaks above a hush, not because they are grieving, but because the moment feels like one long sacred exhale. In a mosque tucked into the busy market streets of Hyderabad, the imam completes the morning prayer. The courtyard is nearly empty, just a few old men and a barefoot child shadowing the movements of his father. After the final Ameen, they linger in silence. The child looks up at the pigeons fluttering along the edge of the dome. The father lowers his head and whispers, Azadi Mil Gayi. Freedom has come. He says it more to the sky than to his. Son, the pigeons lift, circle once, then settle again. On a hill in Shillong, the wind pulls gently at a girl's shawl. She walks the ridgeline barefoot, her hair uncombed, wild in the early light. Below her, the valley is still covered in mist. She walks slowly, not to reach anywhere, but because the silence deserves it. Her father had told her something about the radio, about Delhi, about midnight, about a prime minister who once went to jail. But all she hears now is wind in the trees, and somewhere far off, a church bell ringing the hour dot in an old Haveli in Jodhpur. The cook begins boiling lentils, and the scent carries through the corridors like memory. A child with sleepy eyes wanders out, rubbing his face with the back of his wrist. He asks if today is a festival. The cook laughs gently, shakes his head, and answers, a festival for the whole country. The boy smiles, picks up a stone, and begins to play with it, pretending it's a spinning wheel. A cow moos in the courtyard. A parrot repeats a word it overheard weeks ago. Swatantrata. Freedom. In a room with stone floors in Lahore. A grandfather adjusts the settings on a small wooden radio. He wants to hear the Indian speech again, even though this land is now Pakistan. He isn't thinking of lines on maps or what he might lose, only of how far his family has come, of how many years his people have waited for something to end, or to begin. The broadcast crackles. He leans in. The voice speaks of tryst, destiny, midnight, and dawn. He listens. Not with celebration. But with stillness. In the alleyways of Benares. Ghats now bathed in morning sun. A boatman pushes off from the shore. The oar dips into the Ganges with barely a sound. His passengers are pilgrims, quiet, wrapped in shawls. Some hold offerings of marigolds and turmeric. Others simply watch the water. The river reflects nothing yet. The sky still holds it in shadow. A temple bell rings in the distance. The boat rocks slightly, and the boatman rows. In the tiny hamlet of Fidefur, where the road is mostly dust and stones. A tailor with weathered hands begins to stitch a small tricolor onto an old shawl. He has no pattern, only memory. He moves slowly, not because he is unsure, but because speed has never mattered to his work. With each pull of the needle, he hums a song his father once sang, a song of rivers and mountains in peace. He does not know if anyone will wear the shawl. He only knows it should exist. His daughter watches him from the doorway, her arms crossed around her knees. She doesn't interrupt. Outside, the sun begins to warm the terracotta rooftops, turning them. Gold dot in a railway station in Kanpur, a platform manager finishes chalking the arrival times on the board. Most trains are running late. No one complains. A small group of passengers sit cross-legged on the platform floor, passing a thermos between them. One man reads aloud from the newspaper, pausing after each paragraph. A woman fans herself with a folded magazine. A child waves a flag made of old notebook paper. The station is alive, but unhurried. A porter carries luggage on his back, one step at a time. He has worked here for 30 years. This morning, someone handed him a small flag, along with a coin. He tucked the flag into his pocket. It peeks out now, catching the morning light as he walks past. On a rooftop in Madurai, a Veena rests on a straw mat beside a half-drunk cup of coffee. An old woman tunes the strings slowly. Her granddaughter braids her hair nearby, eyes closed, swaying gently. Music has not yet filled the air, but it will. Not yet. The strings must be made ready. The silence, too, must be honored. In a cave shrine in Maharashtra, a sadhu sits cross-legged, his body still as stone, his thoughts moving. Like wind, the fire beside him has not gone out since yesterday. He chants with eyes half closed, his voice low and rhythmic. Outside, devotees wait with folded hands. None rush him. They know that time must pass through this place slowly. The stone walls of the cave breathe centuries. And this morning, they breathe something new. In the green folds of the Darjeeling hills, tea pickers walk single file into the fields. Their baskets swing from shoulders, empty for now. The plants glisten with dew. Birds chirp faintly. Someone whispers a joke, and quiet laughter ripples through the line like wind through trees. They do not pause to shout about freedom, but each step today feels more certain. The ground itself feels a little more theirs. At a school in Ahmedabad, the headmaster unlocks the gates with hands that tremble slightly, not from age, but from emotion. Today, for the first time, he will hoist the national flag before morning prayers. He walks through the courtyard, brushing leaves from the path. With his sandal, on the wall, a faded British crest still lingers. He touches it gently and moves past it. The students begin to arrive, in white uniforms, hair neatly parted. A form rows in silence. The flag waits, folded on a brass tray. The sun climbs higher. The headmaster clears his throat and begins. In a fishing village near Kanyakumari, an old man mends his net by the shore. He has lived by the sea all his life, caught storms and fish alike. He does not read newspapers. He does not attend speeches. But today he knows. A young one's told him last night, "India is free now," they said. He nodded, said nothing. But today, as he ties a new knot in his neck, he hums an old lullaby in a language only he remembers. The waves move like breath, the nets stretch like arms, and the day unfolds. In the narrow lanes of Lucknow, a perfumer opens his shop by wiping down bottles with a soft cloth. Attar of rose, vetiver, jasmine, sandalwood, the scents do not rush. They rise slowly, filling the room like memory. A student walks in shy and buys a tiny bottle of amber oil, a gift for his sister, who cried during last night's speech. The perfumer wraps it carefully, folds the packet twice, and hands it over with both hands. The student bows slightly and leaves. In a stone cottage in the Nilgiris, a British officer packs his suitcase in silence. The fan whirs overhead. His wife watches from the doorway, neither angry nor sad. The officer folds his shirts carefully, then his cap, then the photograph of a regiment long disbanded. His dog lies at his feet, unmoved. Outside, a gardener waters the ferns. He does not look up. Inside, the officer zips the bag. And sits. Not in loss, only in stillness. A schoolgirl in Pune ties a ribbon in the mirror, then ties it again and again. She wants it perfect. Today they will sing Jana Gana Mana. Today they will stand in the sun, not as subjects, but as citizens. She doesn't know the meaning of every word in the anthem, but she knows how it feels. When she sings it, she closes her eyes. In a leper colony on the outskirts of Chennai, a nurse places a marigold beside each bedside. One of the patients asks her if the queen is really gone. She smiles and says nothing. Instead, she pulls a small radio from her coat pocket and turns it on. A song plays. Soft, hesitant notes of a sitar. Then a male voice, gentle and composed, begins to speak. The patients listen. Some nod, some cry. The nurse places a hand on one of the patient's arms. Listens to. In a small Tibetan settlement in Himachal, monks hang fresh prayer flags in the wind. One of them, young and playful, has painted a tiny Indian flag on his sandal. His elder scolds him, but not harshly. They laugh. The sun pierces the mountain mist. The bells in the monastery ring out, steady and kind. Each flag catches the wind, in its own way, but they all fly. In the alleys of Amritsar, the golden temple glistens in the morning light. Devotees bathe at the edge of the Saravar, cupping water into their palms, letting it wash over their faces slowly. The air smells of ghee and damp stone. Somewhere inside, a voice begins to recite from the Guru Granth Sahib. It is not loud. It does not need to be. The words curl through the marble halls like smoke, soft and steady. A woman in a turquoise dupatta closes her eyes and listens. She is not thinking of flags or constitutions. She is thinking of her son, far away in Calcutta, who promised to write. She imagines him hearing the same broadcast she did, standing beside a stranger in a quiet crowd, watching the world shift. In the high passes of Ladakh, a shepherd leads his flock across stony paths. The sky above him is endless. No crowds here, no radios, only the whistle of the wind and the soft shuffle of hooves. He wraps his shawl tighter and hums a tune he learned as a child about snow, stars, and journeys that never end. His dog walks beside him. The sheep trail behind. Somewhere far below, the rest of the country celebrates. But up here, freedom is the space between clouds. The silence between footsteps. In a home in Morelli, a man sits on his veranda with a hookah, pipe, and a book of poems. His wife brings him tea, and they exchange a glance without speaking. They have lived through salt laws, arrests, and boycotts. Their windows have heard slogans and lattes. But today, the breeze is soft. The street is quiet. Even the sparrows seem to sing more gently. He turns a page. The poem is in Urdu. He reads aloud, Sar Zamini Hind, Tuj Pai Hum Phi Ba. And the smoke rises, curling into the golden morning. In the streets of Bangalore, a group of children draw Rangoli patterns in the dust outside their home. The chalk is stolen from a schoolroom. The designs uneven, but they glow in red, yellow, and blue. One girl draws a flag in the corner and adds the Ashoka chakra with a pencil. Her younger brother tries to imitate it and laughs when he gets it wrong. A passerby pauses, nods, and drops his sweet into the boy's hand. The boy grins, says nothing, and keeps drawing. In a sleepy home in Bhubaneswar, a mother braids her daughter's hair and whispers a lullaby, not for sleep, but for the courage to walk into a new world. The daughter holds a schoolbook tight to her chest. Today is her first day reading the national anthem in Odia, her own tongue. She practices under her breath. Her mother strokes her hair once more and places a jasmine behind her ear. Outside, the sun lights the dust in gold. Inside, the future waits. In a jail cell in a small city in Punjab, a freedom fighter awakes to silence. The guard unlocks the door without words and hands him his clothes. You're free now, he says. The man does not respond. He simply walks through the gates, barefoot, blinking at the morning. He doesn't rush home. Instead, he walks to the river and sits on the bank. The sky stretches endlessly above. He watches a heron step through the reeds. He watches a boy throw stones into the current. He watches the wind ripple across the surface of the water like a new flag unfurling. And he breathes. In an artist's colony in Shantiniketan, a painter mixes colors by hand, preparing for a mural. He dips his brush into saffron, then green, then white, but he does not paint the flag. He paints the sky, the earth, the people walking between them. His fingers move without haste, as if time has slowed to match the rhythm of his heart. Another artist begins a song on a sitar. The notes rise low and sweet, like the sun through fog. They do not speak. They only create. And creation is enough. In a textile mill in Nagpur, the machines are quiet. Today is a day of rest. The workers sit in a circle on the floor, drinking tea from steel tumblers. One man plays a flute. Another hums along. The manager, once distant, joins them with folded hands. A small flag hangs above them, made from scraps of cotton dyed with turmeric and indigo. The cloth sways with the breath of the room. No, one wants to move. Not yet. In the gardens of Mysore Palace, gardeners sweep fallen flowers into neat piles. The air smells of roses and burnt incense. A young boy, son of a gardener, pretends the broom is a sword. His grandfather scolds him gently. No fighting today, he says. Only peace. The boy laughs, drops the broom, and picks up a flower. Instead, the petals fall around him like rain dot in a refugee camp near Bengal. Women boil rice over wood fires. Children play with pebbles. A priest offers prayers beside a tree. No walls, no flags, just people holding on to one another. One woman combs another's hair. Another sings a lullaby that once belonged to a homeland now beyond a new border. There is no bitterness, only breath, only presence. Only now, in the mango orchards outside Varanasi, the leaves rustle in slow waves. A farmer squats beneath the trees, peeling a guava with a small knife. He offers a slice to his grandson, who takes it with both hands. The fruit is sweet, the air thick with the scent of soil and sap. They sit without speaking, watching a squirrel dart along the branch above Dot. The grandfather lifts his gaze to the sky, mutters, Azadi. The boy echoes it, unsure of the word, but liking its sound. The mangoes remain still. The moment stretches, soft and endless in the northern hills of Kuman. A village priest walks down the steps of the temple with a bell in one hand and a conch in the other. He sets both down at the base of the shrine and lights a lamp with ghee. He rings the bell once, clear, high, bright, then blows the conch. Its echo rolls through the valley like a wave. Birds stir, trees shimmer. Somewhere, a child sits upright in bed, wondering if this new day will feel different. Her mother tells her to go back to sleep, just a little longer, but the child stays up. She wants to remember the first day in the crowded heart of Agra. A man selling sugarcane juice pauses to look at the Taj Mahal. He sees it every day. But today, it seems to shine a little more. Not whiter, not brighter, just softer, more serene, like it knows something, like it's remembering the past and forgiving it all at once. He presses a stalk of cane, watches the green liquid spill, and whispers. Freedom is a slow thing, and it is in the back lanes of Trivandrum. A woman draws colon designs in front of her threshold. Rice flower loops and dots, patterns of symmetry and welcome. A neighbor calls to her from the opposite doorway. They smile at each other. Strangers yesterday, sisters today. One brings coconut. The other boils milk. They eat in silence. The column beneath their feet curling with footprints and light in a remote tribal hamlet in Bastar. Drummers gather in a circle. No instructions, no leader, just instinct. They begin to play, hands moving in rhythm with the pulse of the earth. A child watches, eyes wide. An elder joins, then another. The sound is not loud, not insistent, just steady like heartbeat. Like walking, they do not call it celebration, but it is in a Protestant church in Shillong. The choir warms their voices with soft hymns. The pews are nearly empty. A girl at the end of the aisle clasps her hands and whispers, "Thank you," into the silence, not sure who she's thanking, but meaning it all the same. A stained glass window glows gently and the organ hums a low, slow chord in a houseboat on Dow Lake. A man writes in his journal with slow, precise movements. He writes of the night, how the lights shimmered on the water, how the radio spoke of destiny, how his hands shook as he listened. He writes of silence, of candlelight on the waves, that of how his daughter slept through it all, curled like a kitten, beside her mother. He closes the book dot and watches the sky dot in a roadside dhaba between Jaipur and Ajmer. A truck driver finishes his meal and sips his tea. Another driver joins him. They exchange glances, then stories, then smiles. A radio plays. Faintly near the stove, the voice of Lata Mangeshkar drifting over the clatter of cups. A waiter raises the volume slightly dot. The drivers lean back dot and listen dot in a forest temple in Orissa. Wrapped in vines and crumbling stone, a small candle still burns from last night. No one is there to tend it, but it burns. A monkey watches from. A fig tree. A lizard slips along the altar. The silence of the forest is so complete, the flame itself seems to make a sound. Somewhere in the village, a young woman dreams of cities. But not yet. For now, she sleeps dot, and the temple waits dot in the far west of Gujarat. Where the rain begins, a potter digs clay with his fingers. He presses it, shapes it, turns it on the wheel. A water jug emerges, then a bowl, then a flute. His. Daughter watches him and claps softly when the flute sings its first note. He hands it to her. She plays one long. Uneven sound. The desert wind picks it up dot and carries it dot in a quiet home library in Allahabad. A retired teacher places a small tricolor flag into a pot of tulsi by the window. He doesn't hoist it, doesn't raise his voice. He simply places it in the soil and watches as it catches the wind. The leaves rustle gently. He turns the pages of a well-worn textbook, running his fingers along the margins where his students once doodled. He closes the book and breathes dot in a Buddhist monastery in Sikkim. The Lama rings a brass bell 3 times and pours tea into the snow-chilled morning. No sermons, just steam rising. Monks gather slowly, robes rustling like river water, and sip their tea in silence. The sun touches the mountaintops one by one. A flag flutters, but not from politics. It flutters because the wind has always moved this way dot in an open-air cinema in Bombay. The reel clicks on, projecting black and white images against a screen of soft fabric. A small crowd has gathered. Children sit cross-legged in the dust. A man sells peanuts in paper cones. A couple shares a blanket. The film begins. It is not about freedom. It is not about history. It is about a woman chasing her goat across a field. And everyone laughs, not loud dot, but deeply. The sky turns lavender, and a projector hums like a lullaby dot in a courtyard in Indore. A family strings up fairy lights. Not electric ones, real ones, made from clay bowls filled with oil and cotton wicks. Each light is lit by hand. A grandmother tells a story as she lights hers. A myth about stars coming down to earth once a year to remind people how to hope. Her granddaughter listens with eyes wide. She believes her, because tonight feels like one of those nights, and the stars do seem closer dot at an abandoned railway siding near Patna. A group of schoolboys gathered to paint a mural on a wall no one uses anymore. They dipped their brushes into cans scavenged from a local shop and cover the bricks with images of farmers, weavers, teachers, and nurses. One paints a spinning wheel, another a Chennai. Another draws nothing but the sky. A passerby watches them quietly, then moves on. And the mural glows in the setting sun. In the south. In Coimbatore, a deaf tailor finishes sewing a sash for his younger brother to wear in tomorrow's parade. He doesn't hear the celebrations. He doesn't hear the music. But he sees everything, the candles in windows, the smiles on faces, the flags in hands. His brother signs, "You did it." The tailor signs back, "So did we." They fold the sash and rest. In a gurdwara in Delhi. Someone brings in a fresh jug of water. The Granthi sweeps the floor. The shoes outside the temple lie neatly arranged, pairs of every size, waiting for the roamers. Inside, a hymn begins, gentle, circular, familiar. The congregation joins, not in chorus, but in quiet resonance. The flame in the oil lamp leans with the wind, and the prayer goes on. In a refugee tent on the banks of the Sutlej, a mother rocks her baby to sleep. She hums an old folk song about rain and wheat and love. A baby's eyes flutter shut. Outside the canvas walls, two men play cards, and a woman laughs with her head back. Not every tent holds joy, but this one does, because even in the rubble, life insists on beginning again. In a small government office in Delhi, now swept and silent, the last clerk leaves his desk. The radio has long since gone quiet. The ink on the papers has dried. The tricolor on the wall hangs still. He switches off the light, steps outside, and closes the door behind him. The lock clicks. And the day ends. And so India breathes, not all at once, not in a cheer or a roar, but in small moments, in oil lamps, in barefoot walks, in silence, in songs, in the ordinary grace of people waking into something they cannot yet name, but feel in their bones. Midnight may have passed. The flag may now fly. But the real birth of a nation isn't just in the stroke of a clock or the signature on a document. It is in these forgotten corners, in soft voices, in unrecorded gestures, where no camera lingered, no history book paused. It is in the tailor who stitched without speaking, the child who watched the sky, the mother who whispered freedom into lullabies, and the millions who simply live this night, not as rulers or subjects, but as people, quiet, still. Human. As the open sky fades into light, and the day after freedom begins. The country sleeps, finally, in its own dream.